Good morning. Welcome to the Future is Bright in the hospitality industry. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's just been an amazing time to join and gather together as the industry as a whole. And we wanted to create this webinar because we believe that the hardest part of this crazy challenge that COVID has brought, it's past us. Together as an industry, we have learned so much. And now it's the time to build a bright future for the hospitality industry in Australia. So welcome and thank you for being here. We have a panel of experts that have years and years of experience in the industry working as chefs, as mentors, and now they are actually creating those strategies for other businesses to succeed. And that's the main purpose for our beautiful panel to be here. So thank you very much, everyone, for joining. We have on our panel John McFadden. He's executive chef and business development manager. He's now partner with Good Oils and Supply, and it's mentoring young people and juniors to actually join the industry and create amazing careers in the hospitality industry. We've got Jo Cleary. Welcome, Jo. She's our dining experience expert, specialized in the aged care sector. So she's got a lot of value to add there. We've got John Kjørgaard, food presentation expert. John has more than 15 years of experience supplying to the hospitality industry and providing those solutions for hotels and other businesses. And then we have Adam Moore. He's our executive chef and business mentor. He creates customer-centric experiences to increase profits in a sustainable way for the hospitality industry. And last but not least, we've got Francis Loughran. He's a food strategy specialist with global experience leading projects and creating strategic plans and solutions for the most iconic presence in the world. So thank you very much, and everyone, for joining. So let's start. Before we jump into the content, I just want to encourage all the participants that if you have any questions, please flick them through the chat. And we're going to try to answer as much as possible here on the webinar. But if not, please rest assured that we are going to try to answer those questions, and we'll send them via email after we finish. So stick with us, and because it's a webinar packed of value throughout the entire event. So Francis, let's start with you. We know that you have lots of experience in the industry in different sectors, and also you've experienced the change that has happened in customer experience, expectations. We have food, hygiene, staff, many different factors that create an amazing experience nowadays. So what are the key factors that you consider are crucial for creating a beautiful dining experience in today's world?
Paulina, thanks to you and to Alex and to John and all the team at Top Shelf for organising this morning's webinar, and to all my co-presenters. It's really important that we are able to share our knowledge with people, and this platform that you provided today has created that opportunity to talk to the industry and to all the people that are attending this morning. Look, the last 16 months of our lives have been a real learning exercise, in that it shows that we're all human. And if we understand what makes people happy in food and beverage, we can then see the blue sky approach that lies ahead. So your local coffee shop had to open up the window and put some pastries on a tray because they wanted to serve you coffee. But if you wanted to grab a muffin or a slice or a donut, you could do that. That is what I call pivoting. That is what I call finding a way out of it. If you go into the Qantas lounge, they've put up the Perspex screens, the sneeze guard protection, the domes and everything else. So every sector within the industry has had to understand the importance of two things. Number one, people want to continue to eat, socialize, and be connected through food. And number two, you must communicate what you're going to do. If a person turns up at a food store, they turn up at a fast food major, they turn up at a restaurant cafe, all you need to do is to plan that you've got your hygiene in place, your communications in place, your QR code in place, and you've got a person to meet, greet, and seat. So once the customer feels comfortable, A, because they're older and they don't have the technology. B, is they don't understand what the rules are today. And each one of us know those rules change every day in every country.
That's right.
So our industry is all about people. So if we plan that we're going to move forward, we're going to come out of the COVID and the pandemic restrictions in every sector, looking after the old and caring for them, and then coming back to the leisure shopper for a coffee, for a meal, for dinner, we must plan. We must evaluate, we must communicate, and we must do it all over again every day to make sure that people understand that the hygiene is crucial. The communications are crucial, keeping the spend up in each sector so we can keep our doors open. Just this morning I heard on the news one of Melbourne's institutions is going to have to close its doors as a result of COVID. That was on the 7 o'clock news this morning. And those are the stories we don't want to hear. Last night I went for a walk. My local Japanese on High Street Paran closed the doors. So I don't want to say that. That's a livelihood, that's a business, that's a community, that's an employer. So all of those things are sad because it affects our industry. But at the same time, we must take the positive approach that we will follow the guidelines, we will get vaccinated, and we will move towards a positive approach to hospitality. Thank you.
That's right. Thank you so much, Francis. And like you said, there has to be a holistic approach and continue plan improvement and strategy creation for those businesses to succeed. Am I right?
100%.
And one of the key factors that we understand it's crucial for these plans actually to succeed, it's people, right? This industry is sustained by the people that move it from the suppliers, the food growers, and then you have the face of the restaurant, of the hotel, of the lounge, which is the staff, right? So we understand there's a staff shortage, and Australia generally it's struggling with that. But at the same time, there's a huge input for young people to join the industry. And John McFadden, I know that you are expert into mentoring these people and actually, helping them create that career and seeing it as a career and not a job. So what do you think, how we can help these people to actually be successful in this industry?
Yeah, certainly. Thank you, everybody. Great to be part of the panel. Yeah, certainly. It's a space I've spent a lot of time in, pretty much over the last 10 to 15 years. I've been part of the Women in Hospitality organisation as a mentor for that program, and I actually mentor a few professionals out there in the workplace. And obviously, we've identified that we do have some skill shortages around the industry of hospitality. A program that I sort of went down the path of a few years ago was that transition between high school and college into workforce or work placement. And at the end of the day, if we can get hold of these young guys and girls that are coming in and interested in a career in hospitality, and connect them with obviously further education and training that they've just learnt from school, and transition that into the workplace. And more importantly, it's setting them up with development plans. So, everything in life's a two-way street. So to understand where they're at, where they want to go, and how they're going to get there will help you understand what developments and strategies that you can put in place as the employer and help provide that feedback along the way. Yeah, the thing is, everyone today, they're working for work, they're looking for work-life balance. How do I get that out of hospitality? Because of the stories that we've heard over the years. I like to think what we've experienced over the last year and a half, businesses are changing their tact in that space dramatically. There's a lot more incentives at play to make it a lot more attractive. And the thing is, for everybody, we talk about jobs and careers and the differentiation between the two. A job is a short-term thing that earns some income, and a career is the sum of everything in that field. And if anything that I've learned in this industry, when I was speaking with Adam the other day, being in a group role, there were certain jobs I didn't think I wanted to take, but once I sort of got my foot under the table, those learning experiences were amazing. And to keep the young people going today and inspired, they need constant feedback. Feedback needs to be two-way. It needs to be holistic. It needs to be 360. It's not just, I need this and I need to do that. We can walk into someone's restaurant and they'll have a Caesar salad, but there's 1,000 ways of making a Caesar salad. But the question I have to some people is, well, how do you make it, and how do you train people on maintaining that consistency in that business? So it's gearing people up to be successful. Training plans, development plans, they dovetail into each other to reach a desired outcome. And if these young kids are set up to succeed, they will stay within the industry. They need empowerment. They need to be able to contribute. I remember years ago sitting at the dining room table with my family and I wasn't allowed to talk. But today everybody has a voice.
That's right.
Everybody wants to be heard. And if that is channeled in the right direction, then the outcomes can be amazing for everybody. And look, at the end of the day, the arteries and the opportunities in the food industry, they just don't sit in the kitchen. You've got front of house, you've got sommeliers, you've got bars, you've got QSR restaurants, there's aged care, there's manufacturers, there's sales, there's chemical suppliers. So the opportunity is endless. So it's, for me, that career, you can start here and you can go anywhere. It's worldwide. So, I think, the future is bright. And at the end of the day, it's what we make it and what we're willing to invest back into it. Gone are the days, well, oh, you're a chef de partie, you should know what to do and just get on with it. But as I said, it's like a mobile phone. We use it for some form of direction or information daily. And as a business, we need to be providing that information to our employees, and vice versa. The employees or the younger generation needs to be forthcoming and not frightened to have those real conversations that matter.
Thank you. That's how I feel it's a very important factor, because like we've seen, the younger generations wants to be seen and heard, and also provide that value to the venue, right? Like feel important and also feel that they're contributing for something bigger.
Yeah, without a doubt. And the thing is, like, even in a business, to get a young chef to put a special on the menu and provide them feedback on that dish, that's a fantastic way of getting their buy-in, their creativity juices flowing. And the customers will tell them if it's a good or bad dish. And you're not sort of pigeonholing yourself, or it's stuck on the menu, people don't like it. And the more confidence that you can give the younger generation, the more forthcoming they will be with their ideas and having the confidence to bring them to the table.
Yeah, for sure. And also you mentioned that this is a generation that adapts very quickly to technology. They are all using their mobile phones. They have the information out there. And the hospitality industry needs to adopt this same approach. What are your views on this, Adam?
Thank you, everyone here, and Paulina. It was a fantastic question. The one thing that COVID has done for us is put everything under microscope, and things that we've had around, like Zoom. Zoom's been around for a long, long time, and we all had to learn how to use Zoom and how to effectively speak to one another without face-to-face contact. The other things that have changed and adapted is, apps that were not great before COVID have now become better and consumer friendly. The interesting thing is there's also great ways of paying in store without having to use cash. which has been a big change in this world. So there's a great brand called Me and You, which is essentially created by Stefan Pomutico, who used to own Dimmy. And you go inside, you pay on your phone, you look at your menu on the phone, you pay everything, and everything's through that one point. And what we've also found is that tipping has actually increased dramatically because people are now using that new interaction. I've also seen restaurants take on new technology because they have had a shortage of staff. A friend of John McFadden and mine, Kurt Von Buren, has just bought a whole lot of robots to help the need of the restaurant. And they're going to be seen in the next couple of months when one of their new restaurants opens up in Savoury Dining Project. And they're going to use the effect of using robots to take food out, but also robots on the woks, so that the woks turn that. Not that it's replacing everyone's job. What it is doing is helping when there is a skill shortage. So we've seen an adaptation of technology very fast. Even how we learn, schools have to understand, okay, how do we teach cooking via Zoom?
Very true.
And, to see the RTOs like Le Culinaire, Brad Bennett in Sydney, right through to Le Cordon Bleu or TAFE, pivot and change how we learn and interact with each other has been the most important thing. So using the technology as fast as we can, also understanding technology. I saw a business in Penrith, Los Gringo Locos. They only opened after COVID just recently.
Yep.
And have now adapted an app that can interact outside for their takeaway, which they got off the ground within less than a week of lockdown being announced here in Sydney, and they adapted. But what they also did, use their staff to the best ability and reached out to the community to keep the staff engaged and employed. They used their staff as a community hub. So if you had a prescription to fulfill or something like that, the staff would go through the app, and if there was a job posted on there, the staff would go and respond and actually give that out to the community. So to see that hospitality is reacting, that has been a positive change.
That's right. And what I could take is that merge of technology with staff has been crucial to actually help those businesses succeed, because you can't just use technology and you cannot rely 100% on staff now, right?
That's correct. I think we've realised how important hospitality is to the industry. I think we've now realised how important and how fragmented hospitality was before COVID, but now we're coming together as a family, and the government are actually understanding how important the hospitality sector is to the Australian economy.
That's right. That's right. I think that has been definitely crucial, and also, to help boost that support for the industry. And to let them know that this is pretty much the industry that it's the heart of the country, everyone's joining together, everyone's sharing those experiences as humans through the hospitality industry. Technology is definitely playing a huge role here. But also I feel that with the profits, and I wanted to ask you, Francis, about that. Technology, how do you see technology helping businesses to improve their processes and gain better profits?
I think at the moment what we've done is, and it was said earlier by the team, that lots of areas of hospitality are under the microscope. That's not a bad thing. We understand that we need to be very, very clear on our rostering in order to reduce wages costs and get the staff ratio right. For the reduced city numbers, we can use technology with our reservation systems, there's 7 Doors and many others. They allow us, of course, at all times to look at what is the staffing numbers for the tables that we have. Everybody understands that we've got a 90-minute or a 2-hour limit on our turning the tables. We do that because we want those businesses to succeed and get the profit margins that they need to pay their staff fully, pay the staff benefits, and make people feel good about being hospitality employees. Really important. It's also about the profitability of reducing waste. Technology today for reducing waste is amazing. There's 5 or 6 different systems out there, from photographing waste to better ordering to computer systems that allow you to look at portion control and all the different aspects of technology that go towards reducing waste, increasing profitability, increasing efficiency. And then at the end of the day, working out it's better to get a higher spend than trying to push people in larger numbers and not satisfy them, and not so they won't come back again. Now, over last weekend, I had the experience of going down to Tasmania to look at a project that we're involved with. And during that weekend, I went to a winery, a cheese, and an oyster farm, along with 2 restaurants and a trip to Mona. And I was so proud of each of those 7 experiences, on the planning, the hygiene, the technology, the efficiency, and the courtesy of saying, you've booked your table, and this is your table time. I'm here to serve you. These are your specials. They weren't touching the menus. They were holding up a menu on an iPad or pointing towards a screen. That, coupled with paying by swipe card for the bill at the end, and generally looking at the hygiene throughout. So technology, planning for meet, greet, seat, billing, paying, hygiene, waste reduction, it all adds to the bottom line. And I think that the industry has really grasped technology, and it's the beginning of many aspects of technology. They talked about the use of robots. If robots are able to make sushi and give us a standard product and a standard size, and we can do that with efficiency and manufacturing approaches, that's fine. And then we can use the human element for other aspects of customer service, interface, and adding to the positive experience.
Love it. Love it. Thank you. I agree completely. And so with those food waste apps, how important it is for a business to actually keep track of those factors, because to create profitability, you need to reduce waste as much as possible.
Well, I think I've got to agree with John and Adam so far. Training delivers so many skills that you see and that you don't see. You see skills in the front of house that are to do with meet, greet, and seat. I think 3 very important words. Get the customer off to a positive start, seat them at their table, get a glass of water, explain the menu, and get them settled into the experience. That is the visual skill. The second skill you don't see, which is the one in the kitchen. The person chopping, slicing, and dicing, from lettuces to broccoli to other products, the wastage factor needs to be taught into the skills. How to trim meat, how to fillet fish, how to look at getting the most produce out of the item. Then again, what is wasted? You know, I work on a project for BHP, and we have 11,000 people being fed every day in the Pilbara over the 7 villages. Wow. From north of Perth right up to Port Hedland. And being there a couple of weeks ago and looking at those kitchens and looking at the food and managing it, and if we've got 1,100 people in the camp tonight, what are the food choices? What are the food preferences? What do people want? What does the female workforce want? How many vegetarians have we? How many vegan customers do we have? And plan the menu process to deliver the choice and reduce the wastage. So if you know from your popularity charts and your computers, because remember, we don't have any PLU. We're not charging people, so we're not pushing a button. We have to use the popularity of producing 100 portions of lasagna against 160 portions of chicken schnitzel. Which one's going to be most popular? What is served on a Friday? Who likes to eat fish on a Friday? It's an old-fashioned trend, but it's still relevant. Thursday night is steak night. These guys all know what I'm talking about. Understanding your market, planning your menu, looking at your garnish, and avoid saying sorry out of that, not available. And you've got a 3-hour time. Food is very important when you're in mining. It is the end of the day reward for work. You've been at the mine site all day. You come back, you get showered, you come in to the canteen, and you're looking for the pleasure time in that day.
That's right. Yep.
And food is important. So, but to do that, you have to remember the customer give them what they want, but reduce the wastage by using technology and the proper menu recording processes.
For sure. Thank you so much for this contribution. I think it's very important. And talking about the processes, so processes are something I know, Joe, that you're very passionate about, and that are key to actually delivering a great dining experience. You focused in the aged care sector, but it's not only directed to that, but most from the smallest cafe to aged care to a bigger corporation, how important it is to set those KPIs and establish those processes, Joe.
Following on from Francis and John and Adam, when I do my projects in aged care, I encourage providers, but also all businesses, to build a strategy, to build a food strategy, and that can guide price, marketing, recruitment, supply, community perception. So strategy can include things like your price point, risk tolerance, innovation, business sustainability, and from strategy, once we're clear on the strategy, then you can build a critical success factor. What is critical to measure your success, and to then get some clear KPIs, measurable, so specific, measurable and timely, to build some key performance indicators. You can put them into the positions and measure your staff. But if they're clear about what outcome you want, then I think that's one of the things when I talk to staff, quite often they don't know what good is. And they certainly get to hear or get the brunt of what's bad, but we do need to, as the others have said, set them up for success. And especially now with staff shortages, I think we can widen the age focus as well. And we have a lot of underemployment here. So it's certainly using technology for rostering, and especially letting staff self-populate the rosters, and take the load off, the burden off the poor old roster person, but and go broader. Although COVID, they all want us to stay in one little niche, but I think we need to get out of that and let people, fill their own thing. And with staffing, there's so many opportunities to use the talent, the staff, and having a group, a pool of people that have their own talent and ability, to use that to manage projects or bring that diversity of thinking in. And I was saying yesterday during our discussion, I was talking about the fried egg approach, and that's making it clear to staff the yolk of your fried egg, that is your immutable. That is what has to be done. There's no compromise, and that could be food safety, hygiene, the benchmark, that critical success factor. And then the white can add that could be the person's personality or flair, just that little bit of variance that keeps it interesting. And I think it's good. There's so much talent here when I listen to Adam and John, that there's such an opportunity to use that supplier expertise, and to use the manufacturer's expertise, the producer's expertise, the farmer's expertise. They can sell the story, but also it's so lovely when I go to a restaurant. I love it when the person looking after me comes and tells me about the produce, where it's from, what they've done, how it's cooked, that passion shining through, and telling the story sells.
That's right.
And so using the supplier expertise, but I'm also coming across some great technology. I think in aged care, one of the biggest things I've seen is the Averio hot fridge from Unox. So things like that, where food can stay hot, safe, and nutritious for days on end. That's incredible. It's used in small places to reduce food waste, but also having hot, nutritious food on call 24/7 is wonderful for nursing homes.
I bet.
And the other technology, I'm working with a company at the moment that has an invisible barrier going on that uses a mechanical action to kill pathogens. And so it sits on the surface, it has spikes that will use a mechanical action to kill and then electrocute any pathogens.
Wow, especially with the aged care, that it's definitely our most vulnerable sector. Having those care factors, I would say it's definitely a game changer for the industry.
Yeah, but I think also reassuring it can be used on tables and chairs, but also that same technology can be used on hard surfaces, but also on hands. So then it'll keep hands safe for like 6 hours and fabric safe for a year.
Everyone
so it can, yeah, and I love technology like that. That is forward thinking. It saves time, it reduces chemical load and reassures the public, reassures staff. For that kind of technology, people, the workers can put on that protection at home in the morning. They're not taking stuff into work and they're not taking stuff home from work.
Yeah, definitely. Number one, caring about your customer, but caring about your staff. It's crucial in this industry. And I wanted to touch a little bit more on the supplier point of view. I know, John Kjørgaard, you have 15 years of experience in the industry. But now, John, I feel that you are getting a little bit more calls from your clients asking for advice and suggestions on the way forward. So what can you tell us about that, John?
Thanks, Paulina. It's definitely important for all the hospitality businesses out there to talk to their suppliers. Their suppliers have a lot of knowledge in the industry. They're talking to other people. And I find myself, customers come to us asking for advice. You know, what are other hotels doing? What are they doing in serving the food instead of the buffet? And how can we improve our presentation? I think Francis has touched on a couple of things like the hygiene, the QR codes, the sneeze guards, which is very important. And it's so the customers see the confidence that we're doing everything we can to keep it safe, but the food's still presented in a nice manner. People don't want stuff thrown out there. They still want to see food presented properly, but in a safe, hygienic manner. So I think that's very important.
Especially, thank you, John. Especially with these new approach to takeaway and the new menus that are implemented. What can you tell us in the sense of covering the food? How important it is for a business to have those elements in place also for the takeaway?
Yeah, well, definitely we've seen takeaway have a huge increase with a lot of cafes and restaurants moving to the takeaway option, which has been ever so important during this time. But it's going to remain as in the future because they've seen that they can effectively add this to their existing business. But what we're going to see is people looking for more sustainable options. That kind of went on the back burner. But now we're seeing people are looking at the sustainable, and the governments are also pushing for that as well with the plastic ban and so forth. So we're seeing some innovation in that space. We need to see more innovation, and that will come. But in terms of, I know a lot of hotels for their conference and events are using takeaway packaging. They've been asking for something reusable, and I think that's a good space to go down. Something that's reusable, you can reuse it over and over again, but it still maintains its good condition. It's not something that's going to deteriorate.
And the hygiene factor, right?
Yeah, and as you say, things covered is so important. We've been pushing this for years. Covered bread, you know, it doesn't dry out. You don't have to throw it out. Now people, they expect that.
Okay. And also, I think John McFadden and Adam, you have so much experience in creating these new menus that are also helping drive more profit into the business. So what can you tell us about that? How has this changed now with this new post-COVID world?
Yeah, sure. I'll jump in quickly, and Adam. Yeah, look, as I sort of mentioned yesterday, what I'm sort of finding around the traps pretty much now is menus have condensed somewhat, so therefore the food turns over more frequently. Obviously the idea of specials and what have you to help push out any surplus of, to Francis's point, any wastage you may have of anything. So it is utilisation of everything. And I know it sounds a bit cliche, but we always talk about seasonality. To Joe's point, our suppliers are the experts in their field. And I sort of really encourage everybody, if not now, tomorrow, to start stimulating those conversations, see what is around, what works for your business, does it dovetail into your food philosophy? Because at the end of the day, all these decisions add to the bottom line. So we always talk about the 1%ers, and as you can have a dish that flies out the door, but if the margin's not there, you need to find other avenues in that menu to help sort of alleviate, that high-flying item to maximise margin. And people are smart enough now, the technology's there, the information's there, we understand seasonality. But if we invest a bit more time in this space, I feel there is some advantages to the bottom line. We talk about the sustainability footprint and what that looks like. And it can be used sometimes as a very loose form of terminology, like what does sustainability mean to you, and how do you actually, how much of that do you embrace in your business, and you understand the benefits, and once again, that's based on the business model. The food trends for me around that space, we're seeing a lot of, we talk about free from foods and everything like this, so they're always going to be at the forefront. And I think consumer demand, we've come through, that, oh no, not another vegetarian. Oh no, not this. But I tell you what, if they can't get it in your restaurant here, they'll go next door and get it. And that's the space we're in. So the market demand, they're not afraid of speaking up. They're a lot more educated than they were probably 10 years ago with, whether we like it or not, the reality TV shows and everything that people are seeing, that there's so much more educated now. They want to know where their produce comes from. They want to know the story, and we need to invest in that to keep that customer experience at the forefront of what our business is about. Because if they're not going to get it in your restaurant, they'll walk next door or down the street and get it somewhere else.
I agree completely. I'm a vegetarian myself, and just having those options that are not also there, but they're also tasty. Right? Before, probably 6 years ago, you would only get like a piece of lettuce there. But
or a fruit plate.
Yeah, that's right. Some carrots. But Francis, you were saying that it's vegetarian and vegan food. It's also available for everyone.
Of course it is. Look, for those that are a little bit older, when I went to hotel school in London in 1979, there was a restaurant called Cranks. And Cranks obviously was the famous vegetarian restaurant in London with its own cookbook. And then obviously as we rolled into 2005, 2010, the word vegan came into it. Now previously people used to insult vegetarians by offering them a salad or an omelette. Those days are gone, which is great. So what are the hard facts today? Number one, vegan and vegetarian food is for everybody. Vegan and vegetarian are customers. They pay money and they've got to be treated with respect. The menu should have between 10 and 20% of its dishes offering vegan and vegetarian choices. In the workplace, in the canteen, in the cafe, in the crib is the dining room in the mines, or in the Qantas Lounge, or in any of the projects that we're involved with. We work on projects in the Middle East, in India, North Africa, and you see in those parts of the world, even in our project in Iran, I had pineapple rice, which was delicious. I've had orange rice. I've had so many different vegetable dishes. They've all been vegetarian dishes that are perfectly acceptable meals without animal protein in them. And there's so many choices today. You look at the soups, you look at the pastas, you look at the rice dishes, you look at the lentils. How delicious is a corn fritter as a breakfast item with a tomato chutney or corn relish or any other complement? We don't need to live in a world where everything is based on animal protein.
That's
There are
right.
so many wonderful ingredients, seasonal ingredients, as the chefs and my colleagues have you've mentioned this morning. And secondly, how much better do we feel we're not loading our body 7 days a week with animal protein? Lighter meals as you get older. We've got a whole generation of baby boomers. We don't want to eat meat 7 days a week. We want to go into our restaurant, have a choice of food, look at the price comparison. Is it an entree? Is it a side dish? How delicious is a roasted cauliflower with a tandoori or some type of a dressing that becomes a beautiful cauliflower entree or a main course? And all the dishes, what we need to do is remember that vegetarian and vegan food is here today, it's going to be here in the future, and it's only going to increase. So let's embrace it, put it on the menu, and make sure we have the choices for everybody.
Beautiful. You're making me hungry here. Thank you. Thank you so much. And Adam, I know that you create special menus for different hospitality venues. So what can you tell us about that? You were saying that the menus are reduced in size, more seasonal produce. So what are the types of menus that you've been creating lately?
So the interesting thing is what we've learnt as well is I've started to see, and John can say this as well, we've seen businesses starting to make profit or better margins than what they were pre-COVID. That is through learnings, that is downsizing, that is looking at their operation. Now is the time as a business to look at your brand and your customer service. This is the most important part. Yes, creating a great menu that is, using more effective ingredients across there. It's about balance. It is, yes, vegan is a trend, but also look at allergens. If there is a dish that you can create that suits a vegan, a gluten-free, and covering off all those bases, you're looking at your menu. This is the time to actually also establish where your menu sits, take off, and John mentioned it before, you've got products that may sell really well, you've got products that may sleep and not do well, but they're high margin. Look at your menu, analyze where it's sitting on your menu and move it around. Even look at your packaging. Is the packaging on brand? Top Shelf Solutions have some great solutions now that you could add to your brand that really enhance the experience and how the customer engages with your product. That is important moving forward. The other thing is with customer service. Now there is time at the moment with certain states in lockdown, if you're restarting up because you've come out of lockdown, training your staff to look after customers, because customers now vote with their feet. And if they're not happy, they'll move to the next place. If your coffee is, the same price as next door's coffee, but, they're offering a little biscuit or they're offering a bit more, the cup may be double lined so that you don't burn your hand. The customer experience is important. So train your staff effectively, but also when you're creating a new menu, make sure that all your staff, whether it be your bar, whether it be your front of house, your back of house, right to your kitchen hand, understand that menu as well. So that when it's going to the customer, there is a pride factor in everything that goes out. From the chef to the waitress to the manager, everyone should be aware of what's happening so that customers ask questions. If it's a unique ingredient, explain that. Take the time. Also, if people have an allergen and they know that there's concern, talk through what their concern is and understand that. Don't just fob them off. Unfortunately, hospitality needs to be strong. We've learned a lot in the past 18 months, and we're going to go forward very strong and grow as we keep going. But at the same time, use your experts, use your suppliers, and understand your ingredients. People like chefs like Josh Nyland with St. Peter's and the fish butchery, who intimately knows that fish and uses every part of that fish and understands what part of it does. That's what a good chef does. Understanding the ingredient, knowing where it comes from, knowing the suppliers it comes from, talking to the staff talking to the customer, and everything starts to work in unison.
Lovely, lovely. Yeah, 100%. Having that, like I said, 360-degree view of your food that you're offering and your service, it's definitely crucial for success. And based on COVID and these new trends, there are a lot of people that have allergens or have different food preferences. So, Joe, you were mentioning about the free from trend. So what can you tell us about that?
Or unmute. Free from will be increasing, and so free from gluten, free from lactose. I did a project in a nursing home just a while ago, and I was looking at the allergens, allergies, food intolerances, and I think the staff had they had about something like 27 different categories.
Wow.
So there's increasing complexity. I think one thing I'd say with the free from is not have free from everything in every product. Because people who are free from gluten may actually like nuts, or may be able to tolerate lactose, and may tolerate other things. So it doesn't have to be free from everything in every product that's free from.
Okay. Seeing a little bit of variation.
Yep. And one of the other big trends I'm seeing is functional foods. So foods and ingredients that are good for you, that increase your wellness. And that's going to be, it's about time, because food is our medicine really, but it's wonderful to see the increasing functional foods and options. And especially with our indigenous ingredients, we've got incredible ingredients. And I have a theory that actually all ingredients are therapeutic and beneficial, really, because everyone that is studied and tested, it finds to be a superfood. Well, I think all good produce is superfood. Another trend I'm seeing that is ignored is dysphagia and swallowing difficulties. I think there's something like, in a lifetime, 70% of the population may have a swallowing difficulty, which could be from age, or quite a few with dementia have a swallowing difficulty, or even after an operation, so or other disease or stroke. So for those people that need texture modified food, whether it's pureed or minced or somewhere in between, that I think that's a real opportunity. And quite often I'll go somewhere and there'll be a puree swish or so, which is terrific. But I think I think there is massive opportunity to for those people. It is so difficult for them. And on LinkedIn there was a few that are looking at the supermarket to see what they can buy in the supermarket. If they're on a modified diet, what they can eat out of the supermarket, and it's very little.
Yeah,
so,
and nowadays you get more options for vegetarians and vegan food, but just being more inclusive as a whole, and just making those ingredients work for you and actually satisfy and nourish your customers. It's brilliant. Thank you so much for that.
Can I just say one more little thing? Is the other trend is inclusivity of age, because we do have a lot of ageism.
That's right.
And people of all ages are getting out. And I know I used to have a slide when I was talking to my aged care colleagues. There's a fabulous little restaurant cafe in Brisbane. The menu, I circled all of the words that are not in our everyday vocabulary, and I had about 40 on one page of the menu. And I was saying that is like the new aged care menu in a residential care home, that for the ones who like that traditional comfort food. And I think there's nothing wrong with good old favourites, but also if we're introducing new ingredients and superfoods and functional foods, is to take the customers on a journey to explain it and the benefits and get some passion and pride going, like the others are saying.
That's right. Just stepping up that and just, you know, upgrading that experience. I believe it's super important. So thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for that. We have a question here, and if anyone has more questions, feel free to send it through. So Aston is saying, what is the future for buffets in Australia? Notice hotels have stopped buffets due to cost of service and slow service dramatically. This also impacts banquets. So Francis, I think you have a wide experience working with different sectors in for the buffets. So what can you tell us about that?
Well, at the minute, obviously, many people are going through the transition about moving into a safe self-service environment. John mentioned earlier about the bread being in a bread dispenser being covered, sneeze guards, cloches, domes, all the things that we can remove any form of danger going forward for buffets. So at the minute, I've seen several. First of all, if you go into, I was staying at the Novotel in Darling Harbour, they had a very secure lids on the bread, the fruit salad, the yogurt, the sneeze guard, the cooked breakfast had a cover. So people were serving, they were using tongs, they were being replenished continually with clean ones. So that was a very safe approach to a system that still has a level of danger if someone is not handling correctly, etc. Others, I went to Hobart, as you know, on Friday morning. In the Qantas lounge, it was very clear that nobody is allowed to touch anything. So each of the counters that were traditionally self-service, so the chilled counter, which were bread, pastry, yogurt, and they were all served by counter assistants with gloves, tongs, masks, and they put the plate on the table, you pick it up. All the portion controls are there for butter, margarine, so there's no handling. For the hot food, there was bacon, eggs, and toast. That again was all displayed, but behind sneeze guard. So again, but on the way back again, looking at another situation, the hotel I stayed in, Movenpick in Hobart, no form of any self-service whatsoever. Everything was a la carte for the breakfast, so there was no exposure to food. But again, coming back in the Qantas lounge, total self-service, no regard for any sneeze guard protection on sandwiches, bread, cold salad ingredients, chopped chicken, ham, tomato, and make your own. So again, at the minute, it's difficult because of labour costs and procedures, but I think people will probably work out where they can offer the best service. And as a customer, you have to make that decision. If you feel that this is a safe environment for you to take the food and to put it on a plate, and has it been protected to the best possible choice? It is a difficult one. I do know that a lot of the function and events organizations are using a lunchbox. So instead of walking up to the buffet with the rolls and the cut fruit and the cheese board, that lunchbox has been prepared for you, vegetarian, gluten-free, and just choice. And then you choose the lunchbox. It hasn't been handled by any other guests, or it's delivered to you with a collar on it, which shows that it has been sealed. So there's various techniques that people are using to that, but other people on the panel may have comment on that as well.
Thank you so much. What do you think about that, Adam? Do you think buffets, as we've known them, would come back to its normality, or what are the trends that you think are going to stick?
The good thing about buffet, I don't think it's completely dead. I think what has happened is how we serve is the biggest change. Ideally, making sure that tongs are replaced all the time. You're seeing the Crown and the Star in Sydney both have success with their buffet. Also, Centrepoint Tower, one of the restaurants where they used to be known for the buffet. You select items off the menu and it's brought out to you a la carte. I've seen different examples of that regularly, and very good positive ways. I don't think it's completely dead yet. As we've all heard today, there is, individual portions. We've heard, different portions being served up to people. There's all different things happening in the environment. So don't stress. It's just changing. Look at where it's working well. If it's working at the Star or the Crown and how they're doing it, understand what they're doing so that you can incorporate that into your business. And I'm sure Top Shelf has lots of solutions that people can use in their buffets now.
For sure. Thank you. Thank you so much, Adam. We have another question from Virginia Cordero, and I think Joe has addressed it, but I wanted to ask John McFadden, because you are involved into the training and development of new hospitality staff. So Virginia has working in the hospitality industry since 2016. So she says, I've been working with many foreign chefs, including myself. Many of us don't speak English as our first language, and this can lead to misunderstanding problems, cultural differences, and sometimes making it hard with operational procedures in the kitchen. How would you approach that in the post-COVID?
Yeah, no, most definitely, and it's quite an interesting point, because having dealt with a lot of different nationalities in the kitchen, and culturally they're very different in their own right, in their own regard, and respectfully. But I think once again it goes back to people's participation, and the thing is, if you do have a situation in the workplace where you're not getting to where you need to, whether it's a daily briefing or a weekly meeting, you have to address the white elephant in the room. And the thing is, if the white elephant is we're misunderstood, we lack the communication, that there is a piece here that breaks down, the only way you're going to resolve that is through conversation. And the thing is, for me, that with a team in the kitchen prior to a service, there's always a briefing. And there's a briefing for the team out the back in the kitchen, and there's a team for the briefing on the floor. So we understand the expectations that we're trying to achieve for the better of everybody, in the team, and more importantly, the customer on the receiving end, so they have that ultimate experience. And then ideally, at the end of the day, after that service, we all then sit down and have a debriefing of the areas that work very well, areas that we can improve on, and what are we going to target and focus on tomorrow. So I would suggest to anybody in the workplace, that those to me are the fundamentals of grooming your team for a very successful service and reaching the desired outcomes. And look, at the end of the day, there's always going to be challenges, but it's how we address them and how we resolve them. So, and to me, it's about, if I've got a team of people in the kitchen or on the floor, and let's say there's 4 in the kitchen or 5 and there's 4 on the floor, you've got 9 brains in a workspace that ultimately can find a solution and address what people bring to the table. And it's not me telling you what you need to do, but it's working collaboratively together to find that solution.
Yeah, thank you. Just opening channels of conversations.
Correct.
I think we don't, if anyone else has one more questions, we have time to address one more question. Then just check the.
Actually, Paulina.
One on here about.
Sorry.
Sorry, I was just, go ahead, Joe.
I was just going to say something. I love keeping an eye on what's coming up, and I've really, over the last year, I've missed all of the things like the fine food, but so we're slowly starting to hopefully get some conferences and exhibitions happening again. I've missed that. But there's things like the Why Waste app that that people can put on the phone and check on it each day and see around them what food is left over towards the end of the cafe or restaurant day. So these are wonderful initiatives that are being used. And even with Why Waste, I love it because they've made it free for charity groups and providers and for homeless or food compromised people, that they can then see what food's available from around them and go and collect it from cafes and restaurants and anyone can download it and get a really cheap feed.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Joe. I'll definitely check it out. I don't know about that app, but I think it's very handy.
I'll put in the chat.
Beautiful. Thank you so much.
And I think John mentioned in our earlier discussion about also looking at what you've got and turning it into a menu item for the tappers menu and things like that. So I think that's very valuable as well.
Yeah.
Awesome. We have one last question from Anand. So post-COVID canapé service, what's trending? What's going to be the norm in events? If anyone, I know John, you've been talking a lot with different hotels and function venues. So what can you tell us about that?
Sorry, what was the question again, Paulina? So,
yeah. So what's in post-COVID world, canapé service, what's the trend there? And what's going to be the new norm in events?
sure. So we're seeing, instead of large platters of canapes, a lot of our customers are seeing individual portions. And it's been cost effective as well, because everyone gets their set of canapes, or, rather than taking, large quantity from the platter. So we've seen that, and I think, that's going to continue for the next couple of years at least. And for lunch events and that sort of thing, as was mentioned earlier, it's more like that lunchbox service. So, you've got I think Francis, you talked about it, you have your gluten-free options, your vegan options, and your standard options. So people just grab their lunchbox that hasn't been done, I guess.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. I don't think we have any more questions, so we can wrap up this webinar. I want to thank you all again for joining us, for giving us so much value, and for sharing your experience. I also want to thank all the participants and attendees. We hope this webinar has been packed with value and different tips that you can implement right now for your business. We want to make the hospitality industry succeed, and the only way we can do so is by doing it all together. So thank you very much, John McFadden, Executive Chef and Business Development Manager, Joe Cleary, Dining Experience Expert, John Kiergaard, Food Presentation Expert, Adam Moore, Executive Chef and Business Mentor, and Francis Laughran, Strategy Food Specialist. Thank you very much for joining us today, and have a beautiful morning.
Thank you very much, Paulina.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
See you
Thank you
later.
all.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.